has been asked, but could you shed some light on how you can target a certain amount of savings capital per customer? What are the key drivers for you to maintain the 450,000 SEK in your new financial targets per customer? How will a bear market affect this target? How can you mitigate the effects? And what is your assumption of market performance when you talk about this 450K per customer, Lars-Åke?
Yeah, so we have an assumption of 5% market growth underlying. The rest comes from net savings. And as we know, we've had great net savings the last 2 years with around 80 billion per year in 2020 and 2021. We don't guide specifically on what net savings are going to have per year going forward. But of course, we see healthy net savings per customer also going forward. And we have to remember those guidance we give is over a business period. So the market might be up more than 5% per year or down more than 5% per year, but over time it will probably even out. And when it comes to bear market, I think we have a very diversified business model now between the revenue streams, lending, funds, and brokerage, and also between the countries. And we also know if you have lower activity for a period, like we saw in 2008 and also in the tech crash in the beginning of 2000, we know that activity level, even when you have a big slump, comes back pretty quickly.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot. Question about product and mortgage, more specifically. You have been in the non-Swedish market now for many years. Why hasn't the mortgage offering been offered earlier outside Sweden? What is the reason for that? Is it IT, regulatory, or has it been simply a priority issue? Rasmus, can you take that one, please?
Sure, I've only been here 3 odd years, but but let me say it's probably priority. We have an excess liquidity in all 4 of the Nordic currencies, of course, but it's about making sure that we have something that's scalable and that's shippable and that's attractive. And so focus has been on Sweden, which has been the largest market to date. And now, like we told you about, we're moving this mortgage into Norway and then into Finland.
All right. Question about the inorganic growth. I direct that to you, Lars-Åke. Maybe it's a question for our owners, but anyway, what is your view on yourself being the opportunity for inorganic growth, i.e. how would you look at a bid?
That's a fully owner question. So.
Yeah. No answer. Okay, a couple of questions from Nicholas at DNB. What stock market development have you assumed for your savings capital of 450K? You answered that already.
Yeah.
What explains why you expect the savings capital per customer to decline from the January 2022 level? If you could come with that last one question. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a mix of a number of new customers coming on versus the savings capital you have for existing customers. Is that balance?
I think we're assuming also in the modeling, we're assuming a reversion to 2019, 2018 times net savings flow per customer. But of course, and also right now we've had a sort of a valuation drop in the markets, which affects that number. But the model is robust enough to absorb any such movements, of course, as Lars said.
Yeah. And on new trading venues, we had a couple of questions on that subject during the day. Could you elaborate a bit more on the prospect for adding more trading venues to the platform? How many new equity markets are you targeting to open up for trading in 2022? And what is needed for you to decide to start offering physical crypto wallets? Is it a concern of a regulatory pushback that is holding you back, or what is the story about that?
Well, let me take them in order, right?
Yes.
So starting with the trading venues, the one that we have committed to is LSE trading, and like I said earlier, we're hoping to launch at the tail end of Q1. We're probably more likely in the beginning of Q2. I really want to lift up and celebrate, if you will, the strategic partnership we have with Citi and Citi Global Markets. So through our E2C platform, we're able to really right-click and enable any of the exchanges of which Citi is a member. And this is, using the state-of-the-art trading platform that we built. However, it's always a question of both market data cost as well as demand, right? So we need to weigh those things against each other. And we're starting with the LSE because that's where we see the most telephone orders to our brokerage desk, and we know that there's significant demand there. Looking out into Europe, of course, Euronext is attractive. Euronext Paris, looking at some of the other bourses in Europe. And as Quincy mentioned earlier, Asia would be fantastic, but just the time difference, night jobs, transaction monitoring, it does cause some difficulties for us, but not insurmountable, but that's what we're focusing on Europe first. I don't want to commit to more exchanges or how many, but the ambition level is high.
Crypto.
Everybody's favorite topic.
Exactly.
So let's talk some DeFi. No, I think Quincy's remarks were exactly on point, right? So it's all about, as an open platform, giving that access to on-exchange traded crypto-backed assets. I think a fiscal wallet is a ways off, and we put that on the slide as well. And yes, of course, regulation is part of it, but it's also so far, despite the blockchain encrypting the transaction history, there's a lot of mixers and other things out there from an AML and a KYC perspective. It's not ideal. And also there's a total lack of regulatory guidance in this area. And we are talking both to exchanges, to NASDAQ, but also to our regulators. And I think we need more clarity and more guidance in the regulation before we were able to take such a step.
Great. Thank you, Rasmus. Question about net interest income from Nicholas at DNB. Threefold question. Could you comment on what drivers you see impacting your net interest income in the near term? Number one. Could you elaborate a bit on your interest rate sensitivity, which you have stated is around 500 million for a 1 percentage point interest rate change? How is that split across currencies? Is the asset breakdown by currency in the annual report a good indication, according to which 40% comes from Sweden and 20% comes from Norway? So what drivers affect the interest income in the near term, and could you elaborate a bit on the rate sensitivity?
I can comment on the net interest income, and of course it's a development of the treasury portfolio, and you can talk about the interest rate sensitivity later. But then is of course the development in our lending products, where we see a strong growth in margin lending, growing with the customer base especially, but partly also with the savings capital. And then is the growth in mortgage, both in Sweden, but especially then we're going to launch the mortgage in Norway first and then Finland. While personal loans or the unsecured loan portfolio, I think we're going to remain at around 4 billion levels, so we won't see any growth there. So that was in short. But the interest rate sensitivity.
Yes, I would say it's split around the currencies that it is reported. Except for maybe in Denmark, and that is because the funding from depositor, we do charge negative interest rates on deposit there. So that will probably increase the funding cost, and thereby not being that positive there as it will be in the other countries when interest rates do increase.
But then we have to remember it's not just the treasury portfolio. I think the treasury portfolio moves first. I think within the 3 months we have the full effect in the treasury. But then we have the lending portfolio as well that will move over time as well.
Absolutely.
That, of course, we need to look at what the other participants in the market are doing. But we know, I mean, if underlying interest rates increase, the market rates for loans will also increase.
Yes, but that is, as you say, a competition and a country market situation that we have to adapt at that time.
Good. Thank you. Hope you're satisfied with that, Nicholas. Let's change the subject again to livrente product in Denmark. Why are you repeatedly referring to the 1.3 trillion market size for livrente when you show 1.9 trillion as of 2021? I don't know exactly what it refers to, Lars.
I think it was from the analyst presentation in 2020.
Okay.
And the new number is 1.9, and that's also the end of 2021 number. So we've been digging more in detail into this market, so it was slightly bigger than we thought from the beginning. So the new number is 1.9 trillion for 2021, and we also show then the growth potential in that up to over 2 trillion. In
Great. Good that it was 1.9 and not the 1.3. That was correct. So, question about customer behavior. Maybe I want to pick this up, Rasmus. Is there a typical level for how much savings capital people want to have on your platform before they start to consume more? So something about the size of the savings that people keep with us.
Yeah, yes and no. I think it's very individual. And let me just correct the use of the word consume. I think what really sets us apart from any consumer platform is that you're investing. So the assets are always you. There's no utility in a stock or a fund or what have you. You can't drive around in it. You can't live in it. You can't eat it. You can invest and hope for future valuation increases and a stream of cash flows. So no real difference. Of course, with less money, you can make less investments. That's it. But I think the distribution is very similar. And really, it's up to us to, once they're on the platform, to increase the engagement, increase the share of wallet, increase that product penetration, and get a higher savings capital for the customer.
Thank you. Lars-Åke, about the top line. How much can you grow top line with an assumption of number of new customers, with our assumption of number of new customers? I'm thinking about the young customer base and new products and the growing of savings capital. So I guess the mix of all these factors. How much can we grow top line?
Yeah, we don't guide on top line, but of course, if you take our customer growth and savings capital growth and revenue margin, you get some kind of top line effect. But of course, we see a great potential to grow the top line in the coming years, both from savings, customer growth, savings capital growth, the net savings, product penetration, and also launching new products that we talked about now.
Yeah. I think if you look at that chart in the pack, and you'll get the PDF afterwards, like we said, you have the age buckets and you have the wealth curve. So if you wanted to try to model out how that would grow, that's a pretty good guide on future asset levels as the customer base gets older.
And we of course have in the model, even if we would stop customer inflow totally now, we know that the customer takes on more products over time.
Yep.
We're going to launch additional products, but we also have this fantastic effect in the savings market that the underlying savings capital is growing then roughly around 5% per year, give or take. So even with a full stop on customer growth, we still have a good growth in the business.
Thank you. And about growth in the business, a pretty detailed question actually about consensus versus earnings. 15% growth in customers, 450k savings per customer, and 45 basis points in margin imply 4 billion of revenues and 2.75 billion in profits in 2023. Your consensus is 2.2 billion in 2023. What is your view of earnings versus expectations, Lars-Åke?
Yeah, as you see, we don't guide on that. We guide on what the parameters we guided on today, and then of course everyone needs to make their own model. And consensus, that's the analyst view. But we also have to remember the guidance is over a business cycle as well. So the midterm targets.
Good. Question about securities brokerage and more specifically about the ETP business. Avanza recently increased margin on their derivatives ETP business, enabled by their growth and better terms from their partner. There was actually an article in Dagens Industri where you also were featured, Lars-Åke. Does Nordnet already have the best terms for this product, or is there an upside for you as well?
I actually can comment on that. So I think our indications are that our deal is already better and it's getting even better. So no comments about our competitors' earnings levels, but we have a very good partnership with Nordea around our ETPs. We're happy with the earnings level, but we're always renegotiating, always looking to improve that partnership and that product's profitability.
But also worth mentioning here, this is not a product for everyone. We inform a lot about it. You have to take a knowledge test before using it, and we see it's around 2% of our customer base that use this product now, and there's more advanced customers. And I think it's a very good product for them, but for general customer, I think you really need to get informed and test yourself before going into that leverage product.
Of course, agreed.
Good. And more specifically on the profitability on a certain product, cross-border payments. How sustainable are cross-border payments or FX rates? Do you see any pressure on the 25 basis points you charge, or is that, in your view, a competitive offering today?
Yeah, but I think if you look at other FX rates or spreads across platforms, but also in other areas where you buy in foreign currency, I think 25 bips is good. But also if you are a very customer that trades a lot in foreign currencies, you also can have a manual foreign currency account. You do the exchange yourself, and then you have a lower fee. So we have if you trade a lot, we have a very competitive solution for that segment.
It's a 7.5 basis points in Sweden as an example. So that's quite a bit lower than the 25.
Good. And I think actually I bundled these two questions together. It's about the Swedish situation and the competition versus Avanza and the customer growth. It's from Jakob SCB. The customer growth in Sweden is quite low today, at least compared to our other markets. What do you think is the key reason, and what initiatives are you planning to increase the inflow and improve your product offering? And on the same topic, how is the competition between Nordnet and Avanza developed in Sweden? Is the gap flat, and where are you stronger and weaker?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the customer inflow in 21 versus 2020, we increased the customer inflow with 35% in Sweden. We also total share that comes from the big banks to the platforms. We also increased our share there. But as you saw in Sweden also, we are very strong in the high-end segment, the investor segment and the trader segment. Our savings capital per customer is high, our income per customer is very high. So we're very proud of the customer base we have. And that customer base is driving good revenue growth. But we also said we want to expand more into the saver segment, so multi-savings and funds. And what Gabrielle talked about, the entire focus and effort we do on funds, that's key to unlock that segment. So but I'm really happy of the progress in the fund area so far, and there's a lot more to come in the coming years.
Good. And about on the same note, what are your growth ambitions in terms of market share by 2025? You said we had 6% market share today.
Yeah.
We can start with that question. How do you want to grow in market share in the Nordics?
Yeah, we don't guide on market share, but we of course have an ambition to continue to grow market share. We published the market share growth in 21 versus 2020 in the Q4 report, and we had a healthy market share growth in all the markets. And of course, the ambition is that will of course continue.
Good. A specific question about private banking. It was you, Rasmus, who talked about that. We'll see how many you can comment the private banking offering in Norway and Finland specifically. How is that developing? And if you can say something about how many clients we have and the offering versus competition.
I think only generally. I don't think we're not going to comment on the number of customers, PB-rated customers in those two markets. I think generally our offer stands very well to the self-directed and maybe the more slightly younger but otherwise tech-minted millionaires and billionaires who tend to choose us because they respect the tech platform and the UX. And they don't want a cinnamon bun and a cup of coffee under the chandeliers around the big banks. They want to do this themselves. They want it to be digital and they want it to be preferential, which it is. So I think it sounds very good. We have many more things in the pipeline for our PB business in all four markets, which is the benefit, of course, of being Nordic, but nothing specific for those two markets, except, of course, the PB mortgage, which we talked about already, to be launched in both Norway and Finland.
Yeah, and also in Finland, not to forget, is the endowment wrapper, which is also very much towards the PB segment. So that's a key component there.
Yeah, correct.
Good. Over to the fund area. Two questions about that. Does having your own fund company change anything in incentives for you, which funds to push, and having this independent versus the advisor role? And secondly, in which markets have you implemented fund of funds? And what does the roadmap look like for implementing your own fund of funds? I interpret this question.
Wow, a lot to unpack in that question.
We have time.
I think what having our own fund company is all about is flexibility. It's about being able to control a larger chunk of the value chain, but also about bringing great, exciting product to our customers. So we can clearly see our customers love Nordnet branded funds. There's been a lot of index funds lately, but we have a lot of exciting other funds in the pipeline, including, like Gabrielle said, fund of funds and solution products. We don't think that that's going to impact the way we market funds on our platform. We're very proud of our fund supermarket with over 2,000 UCITS funds on the platform. We are open architecture. We are not interested in providing advice. We're interested in providing guidance. So it's all about flow. It's about helping customers get into the products that are right for them, and whether they be Nordnet products or other products, that's up to the end customer.
Good. Thank you, Rasmus. Switch subject again. Tax rates. That's a topic. Best guess for tax rate going forward, Lennart. Something about the tax rate. You don't want to give any predictions, of course, but something.
I would say no major changes in the tax regimes in all countries, and I would say it will be quite stable at this level.
Okay. Why are you so negative on the consumer finance? You have no shortage of CT1 capital, as leverage is the constraint, and margins are very high. Consumer finance. Why so negative there? Who wants to pick that up? Maybe?
Well, we'll say we're not negative on it, but it's not a portfolio we want it to grow. But like both Jacob and Lars have said, we want to change the mix in that portfolio, and we've actually moved that mix already during 2021. We see there's actually a real job for this loan to do to our own customers. So that's where it gets really interesting. So it's actually maybe counterintuitively very interesting to our PB customer segment, as they're often fully invested, sometimes in unlisted assets and need quick money, which we can provide. The other interesting aspect is actually how it's one of several exclusive IPO mandates, because we can provide that unsecured funding to employees so they can participate in both the IPO itself, but also in new warrant programs, for example. And there is a myriad of other use cases which actually fits well on the platform.
So it's mainly, I mean, we converted. We don't want to have a generic unsecured loans to the broader majority. Now we just focus it entirely on our customer base. That's key, and of course, it's a certain amount of demand in our customer base. That's why I think it's going to be rather flat.
And then I don't know who asked that question, but maybe it's right back at you in terms of negativity. We get a lot of feedback from analysts that they don't like this as well. So I think we can take a long, hard think about that.
Good. Okay. From lending to trading, actually. And Rasmus, you were talking about the different channels and the MAU and the DAO and these abbreviations.
You got to love the DAO and the MAU.
Here's a specific question for you. Do customers trade the same ticket size in the app as over the web, or is there a difference in the trading pattern?
There is a distinct difference in the trading pattern. So far, much heavier use of the app, but less trades being put through, and the trades that are put through are of smaller ticket size. I think all the numbers that I gave on those channel slides, which will be available again after the show, will make you give you the numbers to work the math out and to get those average ticket sizes. But of course, that stands to reason. So sometimes even our more advanced customer segments, they will put in trades on the web, and then they will monitor and they will adjust in the app. But it's rapidly changing. Like I said, the new cohorts are onboarding and engaging almost fully through the app.
About the competition and the type of new competition like free trade, new neo-brokers like free trade, they say that they have cheaper trade execution than both Nordnet and Avanza. Is this true? And if so, what is the difference? They mention being directly integrated to the exchanges. Aren't you directly integrated to the exchanges?
Two ways to answer that. One is we are direct members of the Nordic exchanges. And then everything outside the Nordics, we have that Citi Global Markets partnership I mentioned, which is actually a huge benefit to us in able to all the markets we can tap into. And
it's also very scalable. So the more volume, the less we pay basically per ticket.
And that's true both for Citi and for the primary exchanges, of which we're a member, because with higher volumes we can demand better prices. Of course, free trade. Been watching them in the UK. We welcome the competition. They have a different pricing model, and that's up to them and for their customers to see whether they like that. It is free in domestic trading, and then you pay a monthly fee, and I think everything on top of that is quite expensive. So it's much of a muchness, really, and I guess they still haven't received word on their license, and once that comes through, we'll see how that goes. We're not afraid of competition, like Lars said.
And again, I think this one-stop shop part is key. It's a key differentiator for us, that we have the width and the breadth of products on the platform, with, of course, a great experience on top of that.
As well as the tax-efficient wrappers, both on the bank side and on the pension side, that'll help customers invest effectively from a tax perspective, and then it all comes back to brand, and are you willing to part with your life savings and put them onto a platform you know very little about. And that's why trust is so important to us.
A couple of questions left, actually, more on the big picture to close this section. You partly answered this, Lars-Åke, but this is phrased in a different way. Do you think Nordnet should be able to, outside Sweden, be the same market size as Avanza plus Nordnet in Sweden? Is that like a realistic scenario for you? Nordnet outside Sweden, same
you
sizes?
mean that we can grow? Yeah, but I think Sweden is the most mature and most penetrated when it comes to digital platforms. It's around 20% of the population that's on a digital platform today. It's less than half of that in the other countries. I don't see why the other countries wouldn't mature in the same way. So that is also an opportunity for us, of course, since Sweden is most mature today, and we have a great opportunity outside of Sweden.
Good. And here comes a classical question. How are you thinking about going to another country? If not as Nordnet, so maybe white labeling some other platform?
Yeah, I mean, it's about focus for us. We have 6% market share. We have such a fantastic opportunity here, working on this one-stop shop in all countries. So we want to leverage on that, at least to midterm. And we also know from experience it takes a lot of effort to open up a new country. It took us more than 10 years to reach scalability and this trust and liked brand outside of Sweden. So it's a big investment to open a new country.
And I think what's really cool with that investment and the time we've had in those markets is that Nordnet is seen as a Norwegian brand in Norway, as a Danish brand in Denmark, and as a Finnish brand in Finland. And that's the position that takes time, it takes persistence, it takes consistency, and it takes quality in the offering that you have. So, we've seen some other players go broad into lots of countries, but very shallow in terms of product offering and none of the local adaptations in terms of tax accounts, and that's not to us an attractive business model. You can't just put your website through Google Translate and hope for the best. So no, we're focused on the 4 Nordic countries, like Lars said.
So it's 2:00. So one last question. I think we answered all of them actually. It's about the incumbent banks competition. Are you seeing increased investment from incumbents in digital products? How worried are you that they might increase their focus and investment level as you are becoming an increasingly meaningful disruptor?
That's your question, Rasmus.
Okay. Well, without sounding facetious or more facetious than usual, I think we've seen some moves by the big banks. First, there was a couple that dropped their prices below ours. Nothing happened, meaningfully proving our case that it's all about the user experience and the breadth of the product on the platform. Secondly, I know some have made some investments in their app or belatedly added stock trading to their app 15 years after the fact. We've seen no impact of that. Having worked at a big bank, I can say, they're good at a lot of things, but we are very, very good at one thing. And so they need to split their resources, their management time, their focus between all these segments and all these products and all these markets. And, 1 month it may be cash management for export companies in Singapore. And then they're supposed to focus on, retail savings and investments in Sweden or one of the Nordic countries. And that's a tough break for them to do. And even so, even if they were able to put that focus on there, pour money on it, they are running tech stacks from the 70s in the basement. We're talking mainframe systems, we're talking a lot of middleware, we're talking a lot of adaptation, and nowhere near the shipping velocity and time to market that Elias described earlier. We can ship the entire platform up to 18 times a day during trading hours, and we can roll forward, roll back, A/B test, canary test, ABC test, roll back, whatever we want to do. And that's not a capability they have. So speed is really our competitive advantage here. We push a new version of the app every 4.5 days on average. I challenge anybody out there to find an incumbent bank that does that.
Thanks a lot, Rasmus. That's it, I think, for today. Thank you all who presented today. Thank you all who joined us. I hope you really enjoy our first Capital Markets Day. If you come up with any more questions, just send us an email or give us a call. We're here to answer them, of course. And the presentation you have seen today will be uploaded to our corporate site, nordnetab.com, this afternoon. So thanks again for today, and bye-bye.
Nordnet was born in 1996 from an idea as simple as it was revolutionary: to take trading out of bricks and mortar branches and offer it online, giving ordinary people the power to grow their savings on their own terms. Customers loved it. The traditional banks hated it. Through the years, we grew outside Sweden to help customers save better in Denmark, Norway, and Finland as well, living up to our name as a digital platform for all the Nordic countries. We added derivatives, international markets, and built a fund supermarket. We launched a modern private banking offering, digital advisory services, and were the first bank in the Nordics to take trading from desktop to mobile. We paved the way for flexibility and cost efficiency within pension savings and created the unique investment community, Shareville. The list goes on. All accessed on our constantly evolving platform, where usability and simplicity is at the core. We're always transparent. No hidden fees or complexities in the fine print. But first and foremost, everything we do to drive better returns for our customers. We're as passionate about them as we are about our company, or savings in general. Because what is good for customers is good for us. We continue to challenge structures and enable growth by building the best platform for savings and investments. Our founding principle of democratizing savings and investments drives us to this day. And if there's one thing we've learned, it's this. Becoming rich is not a goal in itself. It's about independence, security, realizing your dreams, and taking control of your financial future.